Today's stories include a statement from Xbox's president, God of War Ragnarok PC could be announced soon, and a new gaming handheld has been announced. We'll have all this and more because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Friday, May 10th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is the LaCroix Poppy, Tim Fucking Geddes.
There are too many games, Bless. Not enough time. How are we supposed to do it? How?
You're not. That's the whole thing.
You're right. You're right.
It's wild when the game that I'm playing currently, or the game that I started playing the other day, is a game that I've heard nobody else talk about.
Ooh,
it's a game called With My Past. I dropped a trailer and asked this, Kevin, if you want to bring it up now, because I'll just get into it. We talked about this right before the show, because we were like, yo, we've both been playing games. Stop me if you've heard of this before. It is a 2D pixel art platformer that it is getting into narratives about like depression and about like feelings and about the Greg Miller type bullshit.
Okay, cool.
But also like has a pretty good soundtrack, right? Like it is very much a Celeste style thing, except where Celeste is about getting like the timing right on the jumps and is about the execution of it. This is way more puzzle platformer and way more
Braid.
Way more Braid. You're solving how to get to like the other side of the room, and as you're going through, it is like it's not necessarily a narrative in the way that Celeste has characters and Celeste has recurring characters, and you're meeting new people and you're making like doing all this stuff. And With My Past, it is more so just like text that's on the screen that appears as you're going through the game, and it is written almost like poetry.
That's pretty cool,
man. In a way,
so what's going on with this like ghost shadow situation?
So the ghost shadow is interesting. I'm not like I don't think I've hit it far enough where it is like a reveal of, oh, this is exactly what this is, but it seems like it's supposed to be symbolic of just like your past, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that is talking about in terms of what's going on or like where you've come from and getting over things that have happened in your past. But there are gameplay mechanics that have to do with the ghost, right? Like you find like a teleportation kind of device where if you go to it, you'll then transport back to where your ghost is, but your ghost is always echoing you. And so it's the thing where you'll like make it through a door and you realize that once you like hit a certain point, like the door will shut and lock. And so you'll need to like hit the device to then get back to where you were so that you can like continue on like in the level. It's basically like positional stuff like that.
Cool.
So that's kind of that's the puzzle elements it's working with. I'm very early in it still. I've only played maybe like an hour or so, but I'm really enjoying it.
With it.
Yeah, I saw it just randomly when I was on Game Informer. I was just on their website and look at the reviews, and they had given it a 9 out of 10.
Oh shit!
And I was like, I'd not heard anybody talk about this game.
What did you say it was called again?
It's called With My Past.
With My Past.
Yeah,
Cool.
And it's not that expensive. I bought it. Like I saw it immediately. Bought it on Steam. I want to say it was like $10. And yeah, it seems like a really cool, very indie, right? Very small, but I think for what they're doing, it's funny. We were talking about this yesterday on GamesCast about when we were reviewing Cryptmaster, and Animal Well, and like. Me and Greg were talking about how Cryptmaster, you can kind of feel the indiness of it. You can tell this is made by a small team, but it also brought me back to playing games on Newgrounds where it is, oh, this is such a cool idea, though, that like even though it feels smaller or it feels lower budget, it still hits in terms of the idea and the execution that they're pulling off here.
Very cool.
That's kind of the vibes I can hear where I'm like, all right, like it's not Celeste, but it is like, it's smart and it's cool, and I like what it's doing as art. I'm somebody who likes really good and really emotional writing. Like I used to do spoken word poetry back in the day, and so anything that's like regarding prose or like any sort of poetic writing, I'm in. That's why I love the Drake versus Kendrick beef so much and breaking down the lyrics, because I'm like I love just reading, writing, and listening to writing, and I think they're doing a lot of really cool and really fun stuff with the poetic writing here.
Are you caught up on X-Men?
No, there's a whole story about that.
Just real quick, I just want to let you. I mean, I know you've watched a lot of it. I am just so blown away by the writing in the show and like how poetic so much of it is. I'm just blown away, man. They understand these characters, and like this last episode, there's an exchange between Storm and Jean Grey that I'm just like, holy shit. Yeah. They are in their bag with this. I don't know.
I can't wait to continue on, because I've heard the rumblings of the last couple of episodes. Everybody seems like they're loving it, and there's one episode, I think episode 5, where shit pops off, and that was the moment for me. I was like, oh, they're doing the damn thing.
Oh, and after that, it just pops off more and more and more.
There's like another episode, I think 2 episodes later, where I'm like, oh yeah, we're fucking, they're killing this shit.
It's crazy.
But it's like I'm on my sister's Disney Plus, and I like logged in one day and it was like, do you want to restart your subscription? I'm like, oh no. And I was like, oh, maybe like she just let it lapse. So, I'll come back tomorrow. And then like a week later, it's still not going. And so I texted her. I was like, hey, did you cancel Disney Plus? What's up with this? And she's like, oh no, I just changed my card. I just got to, fix it. But I know that she's not on Disney Plus as often. So it's not a rush for her. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, am I just
What's going on?
Yeah, am I going to buy my own Disney Plus? Like I'm just sitting here waiting for this thing.
I've also been playing a fun little indie game that came out yesterday, Crow Country. That we saw, if I remember correctly, we saw it at like a State of Play or something like that. This is a old school PS1 Resident Evil inspired survival horror game. And I love how we're kind of in this era of, we got so many retro 2D platformers. And then there was a while we were getting a lot of the 3D platformers like what was it? The Banjo-Kazooie like one.
Ukulele.
Yes, Ukulele and things like that. Like where it's kind of, the indie scene is kind of evolving of what retro can be. And I feel like we've been getting a handful of these more PS1 inspired things. But I've been interested in this one just because I do enjoy Resident Evil a lot. And there's something about the look of this that never really grabbed me, but yesterday it dropped. I saw some of the reviews on Twitter and people were shouting out being like, hey, this one's actually really good. It takes place in an abandoned amusement park and it's only 4 hours long. And I'm like, all of that adds up to me of like, you've piqued my interest. So I started playing it maybe like an hour in. I'm really into it. It's tank controls like old school Resident Evil, but you can turn that off and then it's not. And I feel like we say things like this a lot, but I feel like it's a very apt thing for this. This plays like you remember the old Resident Evils playing, not how they actually play. The way that the puzzles are kind of unfolding, the way the combat works, the look of it all, the scares, but it's more about just kind of like fun tension as opposed to like you're gonna shit your pants type stuff. But it's really nostalgic, and I feel like it's more than just nostalgia stuff. I do think that like there's like a lot of fun in the game and a lot of creativity, and just like they really cared about making this world an interesting place. So I definitely would recommend people check it out.
I like the art style a lot. I like when I think one of my favorite art styles that people have been doing quite a bit recently are the throwback to the PS1 and 64 generation, but like when you play those games, when you actually go back to those games, it can be rough because they're made for specific types of monitors, and like obviously that's the first era of 3D and all this stuff. But indie dubs have found a really good way to actually make it look cool. Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, this, you can tell that it's going back to like a PS1 style thing, but it looks fucking dope still.
Totally. And I mean, I am such a broken record here, man, but the goddamn Steam Deck OLED, I am such a believer. And it's just getting me to play so many games that like, I never really would have gave this a shot, but I was like, you know what? I have this thing. I'm chilling here for an hour. What am I going to do? And I popped in and I'm like, it looks so good. So anyway,
have you heard of PokeRogue? I saw Mike tweeting about
it, yeah.
And I just saw somebody in chat bring it up. And so I went to the website just now, pokerogue.net, and I made an account. And apparently it's a Pokemon roguelike, which it's funny. I was just talking to you about how I'm looking for a Pokemon thing. I started playing Gym Leader Castle in Pokemon Stadium. And like it says, oh no, this isn't it. PokeRogue overview. If I go to the pokerogue.org, right? PokeRogue is a fan-made game heavily inspired by the roguelike genre. It explains what roguelikes are, but then they say, PokeRogue captures this essence perfectly, translating it into a familiar world of Pokemon. You'll explore various biomes, encounter a vast array of Pokemon from all 9 generations, and engage in challenging battles against trainers and bosses. The key twist, every run is unique with randomized layouts and opponents keeping you on their toes. This sounds fucking awesome. Chat, tell me more about PokeRogue. Let me know what's going on with PokeRogue, because I just made the account and I'm like, yo, this is cool. And it looks like it's a browser thing.
Yeah, damn. That's dangerous.
Yeah, like look at this.
Having it on you at all. Oh shit, yeah, you're just in.
Yeah,
I'm just playing right now.
On the browser. And there's like daily rankings and shit. Holy cow.
Nintendo, be careful.
But yeah,
don't watch this episode.
There's like we and Barrett and people requested like a code for, what's it called? 1000X resist. Because we saw some people tweeting about it yesterday, and it looks like an interesting JRPG style type thing.
I saw people tweeting about it, so I looked at the trailer and I was like, I don't think this one's for me, but it's definitely interesting looking.
There's so many
games that are just under the radar coming out that are just getting such great reviews from people. So it's very cool, man.
Kev, is this
good time
PokeRogue?
for indies?
This must be
PokeRogue.
This looks really cool.
I believe so. It's hard to find an actual trailer for it. This is someone's hour-long video of it.
Holy cow! All right, well, I know on Moon. Well, Tim. Enough about all that. Remember, this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy news you need to know about live on YouTube, Twitch, and on podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, support us with the Kinda Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free, watch us record them live, and get a daily exclusive show. For a chance to be a part of the show, submit your thoughts and opinions as YouTube super chats as we go. Housekeeping for you today after Kinda Funny Games Daily. GAMESCAST is Greg's Hellblade 1 2024 review. He'll sit down with Paris to talk all about his thoughts on his most recent playthrough of Hellblade 1. I think his first full playthrough, if I remember correctly, which I'm excited for because I'm such a Hellblade 1 fan. And I imagine that Greg loves that game because it is a very Greg game, but also just an incredible game, period.
Dude, yeah, I really enjoyed Hellblade 1. I can't believe Hellblade 2 is as close as it is. It feels impossibly close.
I'm excited for it.
Concerningly close.
It is concerningly close, where I'm like sitting here, like, man, I'm making plans with friends, and I'm like, a code could come in
at any moment.
At any moment. Thank God it's apparently only 7 hours long or 8 hours long.
Yeah.
Because it's the same length as the first game.
I'm so excited for it too. Like, I know we have a show to do, so we can't talk about Hellblade 2 too much, but like, I'm so excited. I really hope that it's a major win. I know there's so much bad Xbox news going on right now, but like, Hellblade 2 it's kind of the one that we've been looking at for a very long time with Xbox, of like them taking a swing at the more traditionally PlayStation type game, right? So it's like, it being a shorter experience, focused experience, all of this sounds awesome. And yeah, if 1 was as good as it was, what's 2 going to be?
I'm very excited. Then after that episode of GamesCast is Game Showdown, and it's a Kinda Feudy episode, so you won't want to miss that. The stream afterwards is the Pokemon Nuzlocke continued. And also, if you're a Kinda Funny member on Patreon or on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames with the Kinda Funny membership, today's Gregway is Greg talking about the new college football game. He says he's talking about whether or not he's going to get really emotional playing it. And so go check that out. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Fargo Brady, and Delaney Twining. Today we're brought to you by Aura Frames, Shady Rays, and BetterHelp, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
A baker's dozen!
Starting with our number one, Xbox president says studio closures were made to keep business healthy for the long term. This is Chris Scullion at VGC. Xbox president Sarah Bond has spoken more about the company's decision to close 4 Bethesda studios earlier this week. It was revealed on Tuesday that Xbox was shutting down 4 studios: Redfall developer Arcane Austin, Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks, Mighty Doom developer Alpha Dog, and support studio Roundhouse Games. In an interview held at the Bloomberg Tech Conference in San Francisco on Thursday, Bond was asked by Bloomberg's Dina Bass how players should be expected to understand these closures. Bond replied that the closures were the outcome of a longer-term commitment to ensure the health of the business. Quote, "It's always extraordinarily hard when you have to make decisions like that," Bond said, before referring to earlier comments she made about the industry being flat last year despite a slew of high-quality game releases. Quote, "I'll go back to what I was saying about the industry. And when we look at those fundamental trends, we feel a deep responsibility to ensure that the games we make, the devices we build, the services that we offer are there through moments, even when the industry isn't growing and you're through a time of transition. And the news we announced earlier this week is an outcome of that and our commitment to make sure that the business is healthy for the long term," end quote. Bass pointed out to Bond that one of the reasons players and staff were most upset about the closure of Tango Gameworks in particular was that they felt a studio responsible for something as critically acclaimed as Hi-Fi Rush should have been considered secure. Bond reiterated that a number of criteria go into the closure of studios, with the ultimate aim being to ensure the long-term health of Xbox. Quote, "One of the things I really love about the games industry is it's a creative art form," Bond said. And it means that the situation and what success is for each game and studio is also really unique. There's no one size fits all to it for us. And so we look at each studio, each game team, and we look at a whole variety of factors when we're faced with making decisions and trade-offs like that. But it all comes back to our long-term commitment to the games we create, the devices we build, the services, and ensuring that we're setting ourselves up to be able to deliver on those promises, end quote. Tim, this video was circulating yesterday.
Brutal.
Everybody was tearing it apart. I actually didn't watch it until this morning because I knew what it was going to be, right? I started like the first 10 seconds and I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me to watch this whole thing.
Dude, it's bad. Like, there's no way to put it besides it's brutal as hell, man. To see Sarah answer the question the way she does, which is not answering it
Yeah.
at all, while there's a giant chart behind her showing the revenue growth of Xbox. It's really bad. Like, whoever
it's curb your enthusiasm levels.
Yeah, man. It's like, oh my Lord. And look, at the end of the day, this is the type of business shit that it's like they're talking to Bloomberg about business, and this is how business people talk about businesses. That sucks, man. It sucks that this is where we're at. That like, it sucks that these are kind of the first words said from the executive level of Xbox about the situation going on right now in interview fashion. And then you hear it, and it's just disappointing. I don't know what I would have expected. I don't know what she could have said or anything.
That's the tough thing about it, is that I don't know if there's anything she could have said. I think the fact that her statement was so nothing, right? Like, there's not much being said at all. You know, I think it's bad. I think even if she found some more concrete thing to say, I still don't think you satisfy people, right? Because people are just generally angry for good reason. They're warranted to be angry. And watching that video this morning, I think for us as people who talk all the time, as people who are on camera all the time, there have been plenty of things that I've said into a microphone where I'm like, man, I was nervous and I said nothing, right? Or like, I felt put on the spot and I said nothing. Again, not an excuse for somebody who's at the executive level and has saying these decisions and should come better prepared for something like this. But that video very much came off as, ooh, Sarah Bond knows that people are fucking mad right now, and that her and her team, Phil, Matt Booty, are in hot water right now, and like people are looking to tear you apart.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Like, people are looking for that.
People looking back at all their past tweets, every past interview they've had, and like taking words they said that they seem to completely contradict in the actions that they've had. Even right here saying during this, like, to end her answer here, but it all comes back to our long-term commitment to the games we create. What is that? What is that long-term commitment?
Yeah, exactly.
What
is the long-term commitment when
it's a redfall?
The action that you just made seems like it is the exact opposite of what we think about as a long-term commitment. Oh, they just put out games. Oh man, they're pitching games that would be the long-term commitment to what their next thing would be, and we're not letting them do that because they happen to be in this place where, oh, you're not going to release a game in the next 4 years. Well, we got to cut somebody. It's going to be you guys that just put out games, even though one of them was so very highly acclaimed and like a very important game for us. And so, yeah, like, I think I understand it from oh man, she's very nervous probably in that, and like probably is like looking for the things to say and realizing that she's not saying the right things, and like you can see it in her face a little bit. And I understand that
more than a little bit.
I understand that because I've been there.
Oh yeah, dude.
But also as an executive at Xbox, as Xbox president, you should know that you're going to be asked that question. You should come 100%. Better prepared for that question. But
here's the problem, though.
Go
right?
for it. Yeah.
Isn't this the better prepared? Like, isn't this like what? I don't know that there's any more preparation. Like, this is the way they talk. This is it. You know what I mean? We want something different, but like, I really struggle to see how more prepared she could have been. It's all lies.
I think you could have said something, right? You could have said something as far as like, hey, we know that this is tough, and we know that we've made decisions here that didn't do right by our team. Like, of course, again, nothing's going to make anybody happy. Yeah. But the thing you said here, which is saying absolutely nothing, is making people go, oh, not only are we unhappy, but we're concerned about the people. To. Yeah, like being lied to. We are, like, you were saying things that contradict the exact actions that we're seeing take place. And on the PR side, even though I think this side is probably the least important of what's all going on here, is the fact that like y'all didn't have something a bit more prepared. You know, I'm so fascinated by the conversations within Xbox, because the strategy up until now has been so, hey, let's be transparent. Let's, in the midst of the Redfall failure, right? Like, Phil Spencer didn't cancel his interview on XCast. He still showed up and he gave very frank answers, and he was very open about it and was owning all that shit. Xbox, I think, a strength that they have, but I think something that is ultimately has come back on them to actually end up as possibly a weakness here, is that they try very hard to be transparent and very human and very, hey, like, let's put our executives in the interviews. Like, let's let them talk about these things in problematic moments, and, you know, not get closed off and like not talk to the people. And I think in the Redfall thing, that's an example of it. And Phil seemed prepared, or at the very least more capable of speaking to the stuff directly. Sarah, I don't know if Sarah maybe wasn't in like the exact rooms of like what, like, is she the right person to be asking these questions? Maybe those are more Phil or Matt Booty questions. But then also maybe it's a Microsoft strategy that needs to change of, hey, if you're not going to say shit, then maybe let's not go on this interview right after we shut down
With
4 of our
Bloomberg.
studios.
Yeah,
with Bloomberg,
I mean, like,
who are going to ask these questions.
That's the thing, is it's like there's no way around it. Like, these questions were going to be asked. She was going there to be asked those questions. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's so rough. And like, you know, we're gonna be talking about this stuff for a long time, unfortunately. But it really is interesting to look at Xbox and video games, period, and really question, like, where do we go from here? Because why is all of this happening? They're saying they're blaming that the industry is not growing. Well, whose fault is that? And then also the decisions made for things like Game Pass. I wonder when we're gonna actually hear what the actual ramifications of Game Pass itself are, because we've talked about it for years now. When
you say here, like, are you saying from them or just in general?
Yeah, from them, or seeing a major shift with it, of them either giving up on it or changing it dramatically enough so that it's like the moment that they come out and they're like, Call of Duty's not on Game Pass, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for people. And that's going to be I think, major putting their foot down of like, hey, the strategy's changing. Like, Game Pass is not working the way that we bet on it working.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think in this conversation, right, like, I am trying to shoot some bail for Sarah Bond a little bit in terms of like, hey, the better decision probably would not be to show up, period, or like, obviously she's nervous and all this stuff. I'm putting this all front and forward first because I'm about to I don't understand what's going on there, right? Like, that's the only level of positivity or only level of like, hey, like, maybe this. Like, aside from that, I think that, you know, Greg had the episode with Paris and Gary a few days ago of GamesCast where they talked about, has Xbox lost your trust and yada yada, and like they go around about it. I think they had a really good discussion about it. I'm at the point of this where I think just the Xbox and Microsoft machine is broken entirely, and I don't know if there's any salvaging it, right? And like, I'm somebody who, I root for Xbox. I think all of us like have sat down here week after week, year after year, and go, oh man, this Game Pass thing seems like it's going to work out. Oh man, Xbox Play Anywhere seems like it's exciting. Man, they are building something here, right? And like, there are critiques that we put out there. I'm somebody who's scared of acquisition. I've always been scared of consolidation, all this shit, right? But like, within all of that, I think we all have taken the position of trying to root for the underdog, or root for like, hey, we want more competition. We want better games from Xbox, because when everybody's able to put out great games, everybody wins. I am at the point with all of this where I'm like, I don't know where we go. I don't know where Xbox goes. I don't know if you can win, because if we're saying that from the top down, Microsoft is applying more scrutiny after this Activision thing and going, hey, we need to like get those numbers up. We need to do these things. A studio that just put out Hi-Fi Rush is getting shut down after something that should be the crown jewel of what you've been building towards. Hi-Fi Rush, one of the most exciting Xbox games in a decade, in my opinion, right? Hi-Fi Rush, a success on whether you want to call it a small game or a big game, I think it probably fits either boat, right? Like, that is what you should be building to. That should be the results. That should be the fruits of your labor. And when you shut down that studio, I don't know what Xbox is anymore, right? I don't know what the benefits of Game Pass or the benefits of anything that you're building here is anymore. I don't know like what the thing I need to root for is. Because if the conversation is just that, hey, yeah, the whole point of Xbox is to make more money, which it is, obviously it's a business, and they do that by buying Call of Duty, and we're putting all this weight into Call of Duty to carry Xbox and to like turn it into a success. Tim, does that excite you? Like, do you get excited about Call of Duty on Xbox?
I mean, I don't personally, but like, as a win for Xbox, I do get excited about that. But as a fan,
like, do you think fans look at Call of Duty as an Xbox owned thing? Like, not me and you talking about the business of Xbox, and Xbox getting more numbers or higher numbers. Fans, like people who play the games, is there anything about when you look forward to the Xbox showcase and they're like, oh yeah, our direct is going to be a Call of Duty thing? Does that excite you?
I mean, we talked about this a couple days ago. It potentially does. And I'm being very optimistic here.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a weird time to be optimistic about Xbox and their decisions and everything. But I do think that in a perfect world that we want to be clear are not in here, that Xbox treating Call of Duty like it's the most important thing in the world to them and really putting something in there to make it a special experience and not just the way that we look at Call of Duty of like, oh, it's another one, but instead to treat it like PlayStation treats Last of Us or something. And I know there's a lot of differences there, but in the sense of them owning it and then being like, this is ours. And we're going to make sure that we don't put out a dud one, that everyone is a banger. You know what I mean? I am excited about that, but I feel like again, between all the acquisitions with the Bethesda stuff and the Activision stuff, you need time to be able to figure out the foundation and grow to what is Xbox actually. And I think that they were not able to do that. And like, that's the thing, is like they're putting the track down as the train is going. And they've been doing that for a very long time. And this is some conspiracy theory shit, but I think it's pretty clear now, looking back at Tango getting closed and Redfall or Arcane getting closed.
Austin, yeah.
I'm looking at that, it's like, all right, cool, Redfall, swing and a miss at a live service game. We've had this conversation a million different times, whatever. Cool. That quote unquote makes sense for like why they would look at that and be like, it didn't work. You know, we tried something that didn't work. But you look at Tango and Hi-Fi Rush, I'm willing to bet that game was just being made, and then when they acquired Xbox is like, oh shit, we have this thing.
Yeah,
like they didn't plan that, they didn't ask for that, that wasn't part of their strategy. And then when I think now it's even clearer looking back, oh, the Shadow Drop, that wasn't some brilliant idea. That was just them being like, we don't know what else to do with this, let's like get it out and move on. And it ended up being a win, and they turned the story into it being a win. But clearly it wasn't a win. Clearly, it was not enough. Whatever metric they needed, it really just feels like lip service to like, and of course it's going to be. I don't expect them to come out and be like, oh, it's a dud. They don't do that. Why would you do that? That's not how business works. Like, you want to market things and celebrate whatever wins you have. But clearly, the wins that they had were not the wins that they needed. And I think that looking at it, they weren't looking at Tango to have the wins that they needed. They were just looked at them as something that they had to deal with, and a Band-Aid stopgap to kind of put something out and have something. And that something ended up winning a bunch of awards and stuff, which guess what? Their other projects don't.
Yeah. I think I saw Paris in chat. Paris, if you want to hop in a Discord, Kevin, if we have the ability to pull him in, even if it's just his voice, you're invited, Paris, if you're able to do that with the permission of Kevin. But like,
yeah, I can sort that out.
Sick. Yeah, Paris, let us know. I think.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but
let me just say this like real, like just because I want to be clear, because I feel like I said a lot, but I want to get to my point. I think that Xbox was not able to get to the point of being the Xbox they wanted to be because they acquired a bunch of things that they didn't want every part of. And I think that they had to make use of what they had, and they are clearly struggling with all of that. And I think that that's the reality that we're in right now, and that fucking sucks. But
yeah. But that's also their fault, right?
100%.
They're the ones that acquired these studios. And I think the thing with the Hi-Fi Rush thing, the only thing I would say to that would be that like they've had a year to sit on it, right? Like you've seen what Hi-Fi Rush has been able to do over the course of a year and a few months now. You've ported it to PlayStation, right? Like you've been able to sit with the success of it. And I think in that time, as Xbox leadership, even if the plan wasn't Hi-Fi Rush, you should look at that and go, oh, how do we foster more of this? And if Hi-Fi Rush isn't a success, and like isn't a success to Xbox, which I don't believe, it seems like it is a success.
See, but that's my thing. That's my point. Is I think that clearly it's not.
Yeah,
and I think that we can say it is all we want, but clearly it's not.
If we're saying clearly it is not a success to Xbox, then this whole thing is fucked, right? Like
that's
because that just means Call of Duty is what you're relying on for success, and that is a bad strategy.
And if you're relying
if it's Call of Duty and Starfield and like whatever the biggest. Like if you're not making the top tier amount of money for our company, and if you're not doing that and becoming a success, and everything under that is deemed not a success, then we're not in a place where this is going to be sustainable, right? Like everything falls under that.
And guess what happens if Call of Duty actually comes out day one on Game Pass and people aren't paying $70 for it? I don't know, man.
It scares me. I'm gonna pull in some super chats.
I believe Paris is on.
Paris, are you there?
Yep. I'm
shit!
Here, just not on camera.
Hell yeah, Paris, you've been listening to the conversation. What are your thoughts on so far what we've talked about, and then also I want to hear your response to the Sarah Bond quote from yesterday.
I think your overall thoughts have been pretty spot on, because it really comes down to the mixed messaging that we've seen over the past few years from leadership. It truly makes you wonder, as we go into this showcase, what is the strategy? Where are we headed with Xbox? It seems like it has been nothing but bad news from Xbox since they acquired Activision. And obviously there's clearly additional pressure on them, because you just spent tens of billions of dollars in these acquisitions. We get it. But your core messaging has been over the past few years about we're acquiring these studios and not protecting them is probably the wrong word to use here, but to allow them to explore their creative freedom. So Tango going away after exploring their creative freedom with a game like Hi-Fi Rush, which was critically acclaimed. You yourselves said a year ago, hey, it's meeting the metrics, it's doing everything we want it to do. And then a year later, oh no, that's not good enough. You go away. It's so baffling to see this happen. And to your point about Sarah yesterday, look, we all like Sarah Bond. But she is the president of Xbox now. So these decisions that have been made, sure, Matt Booty may have been the one executing them, but it went across her desk at some point. She had to have some say in the approval process of this happening. So I get the Bloomberg interview was probably scheduled weeks ago, but you knew that question was coming. You knew it was coming. So for that non-answer to happen it does more harm than good. You already have people that are doubting where Xbox is headed. You then give the message of basically shit happens. That's what I heard in that message. So, I mean, they got a lot of work to do because leading into this showcase, and I talked about this, myself, but I look at the showcase and I think about the hardcore fans that are going to spend their own money to fly from around the world to come to Los Angeles to sit in that crowd for that showcase. They are in the know of what's going on. They clearly pay attention to what's happening. How can you show, I don't know, Gears or Perfect Dark or Fable or whatever and talk about how great the future of this looks when a game that just a year ago we were all celebrating, you close the entire studio? There needs to be definitive answers coming from leadership, from Phil on down. They need to be very definitive about here is the direction that we're going. And when I say definitive, if it's bad news, it's bad news. But just at this point, rip the Band-Aid off. We got to stop the half measures of what Xbox has been telling us. Just tell us this. If we're going third party, we're going third party. If Game Pass is going away, Game Pass is going away. I mean, Sarah kind of said it's not yesterday, but let's be definitive about that. Let people know, because I can't imagine working at one of these studios at Xbox Game Studios right now and feeling good about my position. I mean, I can't. How could you?
To your point of us looking forward to the Xbox showcase and some repairing having to be done by the time we get there. My question about that and my question about, how does Xbox turn around, I guess, perception by the time we get there, which I don't even know if it's possible. What is your reaction, Paris, to when we get to the Xbox showcase and we see a game that we would probably put in the same bucket as a Hi-Fi Rush? We see something that is, oh man, this is a cool, unique, fun-looking game, but it's not a Halo Infinite, or it's not or let me just say it's not a Halo, or it's not a Call of Duty, or it's not something that looks like it is the cream of the crop in terms of what it's bringing in to financials. Because for me, if I see a trailer for something that I'll put in that Hi-Fi Rush bucket type of game, which for me is like the most exciting thing, something different, something cool, something like that doesn't have to be the biggest thing ever, I usually get excited for that. I think I'm going to look at that during the showcase and go, ooh, well, are you being forced? Do you want to do this kind of game? Is this studio going to get shut down after this? Do you think that that's going to be the perception for most people at this point watching the Xbox showcase who are, let's say, in the room, right? Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on again. I think that's the whole point. There's going to be doubt. I can give you two great examples of this. Let's say whatever Double Fine is working on, they show it at the showcase. I'm going to look at that and go, man, that looks cool. We know it's coming from Tim Schafer. I hope it's enough. God, I hope it sells enough. That's going to be the thought in my head. I'd give you another game they showed last year, South of Midnight, coming from Compulsion. I'm going to look at, let's say they actually show gameplay this year. I go, man, I hope this works. I hope people buy into this. I hope this is successful enough that Compulsion can continue to make these type of games. Because the scary part about it is it's no longer about the critical acclaim. It's about the bottom line of the metrics that you're hitting. You have to hit a certain metric or you risk your team, your studio, your IP going away. That's the message that I've gotten over the past few days. And this is why I'm saying they need to be definitive that this is not the case, because that's what people are going to think.
Yeah. I still stand by. I think that Hi-Fi Rush, I think that you got to look at the projects that Xbox themselves from the ground up greenlit and wanted to make versus the things that the project they just acquired on. So I do think that there is a difference between something like South of Midnight and Hi-Fi Rush, just based on where they're at. I also think, though, that their commitment to Game Pass and the way that money is made and the fact that they're now telling us they're not making the money. They're saying that the industry is not growing the way that they needed to, so it's not working. I do feel like then that's a whole new reason for these things for us to be concerned about the games when we see them. But I feel like, Paris, do you think that Call of Duty ends up being on Game Pass day one?
It has to be.
And if it is, do you think that they're totally fucked?
I don't know. But it has to be. You can't, because I was talking about this the other day. You have one or two options. Either Call of Duty is there day one, or you get rid of Game Pass. You can't half measure it. This is my point. The messaging that you have told us, all of your first party lineup will be there day one in Game Pass. You can now not say, well, guess what? Call of Duty makes too much money and we can't afford that. So that one isn't going to be there, but everything else is. Now what's next? Is Perfect Dark not going to be there? Is Gear 6 not going to be there? Now we have to question every new game that comes out if it will be a part of Game Pass. So it's all or nothing. It really is. So it sounds like they're just going to push forward with this, that everything will be there day one, and they're going to obviously double down on Game Pass. Is that a price increase? We don't know. We'll obviously see. But they're at a crossroads with that subscription service. I've clearly been a fan of it, and I see the potential of it. But the whole reason Game Pass would work is quality games consistently. And that's been the problem the past few years, and that's why growth is stagnated. If they can't get that cadence going consistently, then Game Pass will never work. And you do need a game like a Call of Duty to be in it to get people to incentivize to want to subscribe to it.
It's interesting, though. I mean, obviously I agree with you of like you need the consistent good games, but like the thing of for it to work, quote unquote, like for it to work, it needs to be making money to be able to sustain these games, right? And I feel like that's the thing that forever we've been like, but how is this working? How are they going to offer all of their first party titles on this thing when we know the financials of how it works? It's simple math. Like we see it out there. You either pay $70 for a game or you pay for the subscription fee per month that is nowhere near that amount of money. And at a certain point, it makes sense based on the type of games they're making. But then when we also know that they're making the deals out there for third-party games, for some of the indie titles out there. But then now Xbox acquired so many studios, so all of a sudden, it's no longer just, here's a handful of Xbox first-party games that are day and date. It's, hey, here's so many freaking video games, Bethesda titles, the next Elder Scrolls, Starfield, Call of Duty, all of those are day one on this thing. All of a sudden, it needs to make a lot more money. And that's the thing for me, is that's how it works. That's the question I have of how does it work? How can they make it work? It doesn't seem like they can.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern for me. That's why I'm leaning towards, I don't know if it's going to be on Game Pass. The reports we've gotten recently this last week is that they're still trying to figure out, they're still considering all the options. And I think the fact that we've gotten we've seen the numbers, the reported numbers about what Game Pass are, and it seems like Game Pass is underperforming and you're putting all these big games on Game Pass, Call of Duty has to make the money. That's beyond question. Call of Duty was bought so you can make the money, and Call of Duty makes the most money when it's being sold at a premium price, when it's being sold across all platforms, when it's being able to bring in that revenue. Does Game Pass cut into that? Like, if you put Call of Duty on Game Pass and that doesn't cost Game Pass to straight up skyrocket, and if that doesn't also trickle down and then like get people involved in all these other games on Game Pass, if that doesn't have that ultimate impact, then that's gonna be a big problem, right? Like the entire Xbox strategy is gonna have to shift. Like this year is gonna be make or break in terms of what that looks like for Xbox. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, hey, yeah, like it'd be way too much of a risk to put on Game Pass. But yeah, Pierce, to your point, if they don't do that, that changes the entire messaging of Game Pass, and then yeah, like you're going to have to sit down and have another one of those like podcast episodes with Matt, Phil, and Sarah, and go, hey, this is what we're doing as Xbox. Like this is what it looks like. Go for it.
But no, I was just going to say, but see, that again goes back to the communication and the messaging, because at the business update, Matt Booty was very specific that all of their first party lineup will be their day one in Game Pass.
Yeah.
Phil Spencer even reiterated during GDC the intent, and I want to be keyword intent, is for Call of Duty to be there in Game Pass. And then Sarah Bond just yesterday also repeated what Matt Booty said. So this is what I'm saying. Either you're all in on that and you're doing it, and if you're not, to me, you rip the Band-Aid. You rip the Band-Aid now and say, look, we tried this thing. It didn't work. We're scaling it back. Maybe you just don't do day one at all. Maybe you basically have a PlayStation Plus tier that is Game Pass, and day and day, if you want something day and date, you got to go spend $70 to play it.
Yeah.
Look, things happen. They clearly tried. I clearly appreciate the effort as a consumer. I want Game Pass to succeed, but if people are not subscribing to it in the numbers that make it sustainable, and now you have basically the 800-pound gorilla that's a part of your first-party lineup in Call of Duty that we know makes billions, and you can't risk that, then rip the Band-Aid now. Just that's all I'm saying is, if it's bad news, just tell us now. Stop spinning it into half measures. Just go all in either way that you need to do. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Super Chats are in a similar vein, split about the whole Game Pass thing. Barista Brain writes in and says, is this the end of subscription gaming? Chasselet writes in and says, Game Pass VIP tier with $60 games, and then the VVIP tier with $70 games. And then also Guitar Hero Arrow says, will this cast a pal over Xbox's June showcase, right? Like, I think a lot of people are on the same wavelength as far as what does this do to the entire strategy that's been presented. And so Paris, before we move on to the next thing, do you have any final thoughts on this whole situation?
Like I said, I'm just very interested to see what the messaging is going to look like for this showcase, because I think this is a crossroads moment for them on where Xbox is headed as a brand. So next 30 days are going to be very interesting.
It'll be very interesting indeed. But Tim, you know where you can go to get very interesting content? You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames, where we have the Kinda Funny membership, which allows you to get interesting content like Gregway. He puts that up every single day. You can also get shows ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode's brought to you by Aura Frames. Looking for the perfect gift to celebrate the moms in your life? Aura Frames are beautiful Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames that allow you to share and display unlimited photos. It's super easy to upload and share photos via the Aura app, and if you're giving an Aura as a gift, you can even personalize the frame with preloaded photos and memories. Greg, Kevin, and a ton of people here at Kinda Funny are obsessed with their Aura frames. It takes about 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. You can add unlimited photos and videos and invite as many people as you want to a frame. Aura displays photos in true color and automatically adjusts for the light level of the room. At night, when you turn off the lights, your frame also turns off to save energy. From grandmothers to new mothers, aunts, and even the friends in your life, every mom would love an Aura frame. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame. That's auraframes.com, and use code KINDAFUNNY at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. This episode's brought to you by Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers an unrivaled product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and world-class optics for all outdoor adventures. With an extensive array of styles and colors, you're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. Y'all know I've been outside in the sun playing a lot of Pokemon Go, and it's such a great experience wearing Shady Rays when I am out and about looking dope. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you lose or break a pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Exclusively for you, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code KF20 for $20 off each pair of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. I'm currently planning a wedding, so I know all about that. But when we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. You can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace, and it can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny.
And we're back. I want to give a couple of shout outs before I move on to the next news story. I have 2 required readings / watchings for you. One, I want to give a shout out to Ryan McCaffrey over at IGN. He put up a column titled Phil Spencer in the Battle for Xbox's Soul. And yeah, I highly recommend people go check that out. I don't know if you read that one.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I've not gotten the chance to dive into it, but like I saw people sharing it around.
Yeah, he interviews 2 former Xbox executives. They're anonymous, but they give their perspective on everything going on, and it's very interesting.
I also want to give a shout out to SkillUp, who put up a video this morning titled The Activisioning of Xbox. And this is one I did listen to or watched this morning as I got ready for work. And it's very good. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the conclusions he comes down to. And I think a lot of it comes from the same things that I'm feeling in terms of, man, I hate that, like, I really enjoyed the conversation between you and Abu on that KFGD, because Abu talked about how, video games are art. And then, like, you have to interact them with business, because that's how this whole thing works. And those are 2 things that just don't naturally work together. And I think one of the things that SkillUp says that really resonated with me is how, we thought that the acquisition of Activision was going to be good for how Xbox could have impacted Activision, but we're kind of getting the reverse of how Activision is impacting Xbox. And I thought that was a very salient point. So go check that out. It's a 25-minute video from SkillUp. Of course, SkillUp always doing incredible work. And yeah, those are your 2 required readings / watchings. Let's move on, Tim, with more Xbox conversation.
Story number 2.
Microsoft's new Xbox mobile gaming store is launching in July. This is Tom Warren at The Verge. Microsoft has been talking about plans for an Xbox mobile gaming store for a couple of years now, and the company now plans to launch it in July. Speaking at the Bloomberg Technology Summit earlier today, Xbox President Sarah Bond revealed the launch date and how Microsoft is going to avoid Apple's strict App Store rules. Quote, "We're going to start by bringing our own first-party portfolio to the Xbox mobile store, so you're going to see games like Candy Crush show up in that experience, games like Minecraft," says Bond. "We're going to start on the web, and we're doing that because that really allows us to have it be an experience that's accessible across all devices, all countries, no matter what, and independent of the policies of closed ecosystem stores," end quote. The store will be focused on first-party mobile games from Microsoft's various studios, which include huge hits like Call of Duty Mobile and Candy Crush Saga. Bond says the company will extend this to partners at some point in the future, too. While games will naturally be a part of the store, it sounds like the key parts of the Xbox experience will also be available. Bond argues there isn't a gaming platform and store experience that, quote, goes truly across devices, where who you are, your library, your identity, your rewards travel with you versus being locked to a single ecosystem, end quote. So Microsoft is trying to build that with its Xbox mobile store. Microsoft had also been building this store in anticipation of companies like Apple and Google being forced to open up their mobile app stores, but it's clear the software giant isn't willing to wait on the Digital Markets Act to shake out in Europe or any potential actions in the US. A web-only mobile store will be challenging to pull off, and it's not immediately clear how Microsoft will position this as an alternative to these mobile games already existing on rival app stores. Bond says Microsoft will extend beyond the web, hinting that it could eventually launch a true rival to Google and Apple's mobile app stores at some point soon. Very interesting.
It is interesting. I really want to know what this is actually going to shake out to be, because this feels like the type of thing, I mean, they explicitly say it here, but with all the changes happening with the way that these mobile stores are previously functioning and now going to have to function, I think that this is kind of a play for them to be able to focus more on like the in-game purchases and like being able to monetize without taking percentage cuts and all of that. So I don't know. This is the type of businessy news that I'm like, I don't know how this really affects the consumer side of it, and I don't know that it's really going to catch on. I don't think that this is going to be a major game changer. Maybe I'm missing something here.
I'm with you. Like, I think the idea of having a Xbox thing that connects all your accounts, I think could be good for the consumer, but I'm also like, well, how does that help when it is I'm playing Call of Duty Mobile or I'm playing Candy Crush? if like I'm not carrying my data over to like my main Xbox, right? Like I feel like those ecosystems are so different already that having like a shared ecosystem between mobile and console and whatever cloud and whatever else isn't as enticing to me. I don't really care as much. But obviously I think you're right that this is mostly so that they can make the play for in-app purchases. It's the same vein as what Fortnite has been trying to do for being able to get that revenue, because guess what? That 30% split or 50% split or whatever it is, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money,
especially when you're Candy Crush or your Fortnite or your Call of Duty Mobile.
So to me, this very much reads as a shareholder type. Hey, we're going to get more money from the things that we're already selling, which is good news for them and for them getting money. But I personally, I don't think I'm ever going to use this.
I'm fascinated on two things, I guess. One of them being, is Xbox one among many, or Microsoft, is Microsoft one among many new stores, is everybody going to do this? Like, is it going to be a thing where, once you get into like the top 100 mobile games or mobile apps or whatever, the play is now, hey, let's launch our own store so we don't have to split that with Apple or Google or whoever. Yeah,
I imagine so, but I think that obviously Xbox is uniquely positioned with the acquisitions it just had, because it has Minecraft,
and
now
Candy Crush, and Call of Duty
Mobile, and it's kind of like, oh shit, like those are three of the biggest.
It makes
games.
A lot of sense for you to want to have your own store. So yeah, that's first and foremost. And then I guess the other thing is, does this actually feed back into Game Pass and cloud? Like, are you able to position cloud gaming in a way where not only are you playing Call of Duty Mobile on this app, on this Microsoft store on mobile, but then also you're making purchases of, I guess it would be Game Pass in that case, right? You're playing Hellblade 2 on mobile and it's all within the same shared ecosystem, and you're able to use Candy Crush and Call of Duty and Minecraft as the gateway into getting people to play Hellblade and Avowed and whatever Xbox games you have on your mobile device.
Yeah, potentially. It is funny though, because I feel like that wouldn't be a separate like store. That would just be like a feature in an Xbox app that is just like an Xbox app, which I hate how many freaking apps there are. You know what I mean? It's like, I hate where it's like, all right, you need this app for this and this app for that. And it's like, that's how this shit goes though. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, I feel like this is more for them than it is for us.
Story number 3, God of War Ragnarok is reportedly the next PlayStation exclusive to hit PC. This is Wesley Yin-Poole at IGN. God of War Ragnarok is the next PlayStation exclusive to launch on PC, according to a fresh report. Reliable PlayStation Store leaker Bill Kun, writing for Deal Labs, claimed Sony Santa Monica's hugely popular action game will soon land on PC, although they failed to offer a release date. An announcement Bill Kun said is set for sometime in May. And Tim, if there's anything I understand about this industry, is that whenever Bill Kun says something, it happens.
Bill Kun, Dusk Golem, and Pioro. All three of them, flawless victory.
I'm so curious about their identity, because I'm like, you have to work at PlayStation.
Or Nintendo, or wherever. It's like, how do you know all this stuff?
Yeah. But Bill Kun is always like, the day before PS Plus tells us their games, Bill Kun is on it. Like, it's always something that's popping on the PlayStation Store, which would make me think that there's some back-end person on the PlayStation Store that's messing around with all these. But yeah, cool. That's awesome, right? God of War Ragnarok coming to PC.
Huge.
I wonder if this is a PlayStation Showcase or State of Play announcement, because we're in May, and the idea is probably that we're going to see one by the time we get to the end of May. But Bill Kun already talking about it. Wouldn't also be surprised if this was news for, what's today, Wednesday? No, today's Friday. So I wonder if this is like next week news. Because Bill Kun is like, usually it's about to happen.
Be the showcase.
No way, really?
Well, I mean, dude, we're 10 days into May.
Fuck, we are.
Like, we're running out of time. Like, we have like 2-3 weeks, right?
I need to open up a calendar.
That's max.
Because I'm not necessarily thought about when exactly a showcase would happen. I guess looking at the calendar, I would assume the week of the 20th, or maybe even the 27th. I feel like next week would be too soon.
I agree, but also
stranger things have happened, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Story number 4, ROG Ally X has been announced. This is Taylor Lyles at IGN. If you're hoping that Asus would show off the success to the ROG Ally, I guess the successor is what they mean, the successor to the ROG Ally, you're going to have to wait a little while longer. Still, we got some initial info, including what to expect from its battery life and more. The ROG Ally X, which was formally announced on Thursday, will be an update to the original, featuring a black color variant and improved battery life.
Throw 'em up.
First reported by The Verge moments before Asus held its next ROG Ally announcement stream, which ended up being an anticlimactic announcement for a bigger announcement coming on June 2nd.
Stinker. I watched this shit live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like we got info though, right?
Not really.
The new device's battery. Well, we got battery life. The new device's battery life will be 30 to 40% increase over its predecessor. Asus also revealed this. This will. Oh yeah, another typo. This will be slightly heavier than the original due to an increased battery performance. In addition to the enhanced battery life, the ROG Ally X will be more repair friendly, including interchangeable redesigned joystick modules. The M.2 2280 SSD slot has increased, making it easier for people to find third-party SSDs to buy and install should they wish to increase its SSD storage capacity. An SD card reader will still be present for those who need to be bolder to pry open their handheld. But that is about as far as the new changes go. The device will still use the same AMD Z1 Extreme CPU offered in the original, in addition to the same 7-inch LCD display that supports up to 1080p resolution and a refresh rate that caps at 120 Hz. Why are we not doing OLED?
Why are we not doing OLED? This is so weird, man. I've been hyped on this because I'm super into the handheld market now, and especially when I want to know the new things. I want to see how they're pushing it, and I've been interested in getting my hands on the Ally. I went to Best Buy recently just to hold it and hold the Legion Go, just to see if they solve the problems that the very minor problems that I do have with the Steam Deck's button placement. And I'm interested, but I was like, oh, definitely want to wait for OLED, want to wait for the next model, and like. They announced the next model. I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. And I was like waiting for this live stream, and it was a live stream that's just like, oh yeah, more information in June. And it's like, why did you promote it this way? Like, it was just such a blunder on their part. Everyone was so pissed in chat.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. It was like, what are you doing here, guys? Because they marketed it as like, hey, we're like revealing it. And it was not the reveal at all. And even what they did reveal, it's like, all right, cool. Super iterative. This feels, calling it like the Ally X, to me implies a much bigger jump than what we're getting here. So, yeah, so far I'm very underwhelmed with this news.
Is it Rog or Rog or Rogue? Rog, says Barrett.
It's not Raj.
I think I'm saying Rog because of Roger.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I've heard people call it Rogue as well.
I've heard it called everything, and so I'm like, it's one of those ones.
I don't care. It's a stupid. You can't have a name like that. It's like play on.
Play on.
Yeah.
Play on.
Play on.
Coke.
How it said.
Hodge. Koch.
How it's spelled.
Last story number 5, the Rogue Prince of Persia has been postponed. I don't have to read the whole thing. Basically, I really like their statement because they're like, hey man, Hades 2, what you gonna do?
Dude, amazing statement. Like they straight up were like, yo, we said it was gonna come in May. It's still gonna come at some point. We're gonna give you the date on Monday, but I'm just gonna be real with you. Hades 2, everyone and their mom's playing it, including us and our moms.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny because we had the codes for Hades 2. And then also, like, I had a code for Rogue Prince of Persia, and I'm like, this Hades 2 seems like it's about to drop. Like, I didn't know for sure that Hades 2 was going to drop because we never got at least I wasn't privy to, like, the release date. I don't think any of us were. But yeah, when it dropped, I was like, oof, Rogue Prince of Persia game. I don't know if you want to drop in the next coming weeks.
And clearly they don't.
Yeah.
They know what's
smart.
up. Yeah.
It's very smart.
Very smart. Very excited for it, too, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Rogue Prince of Persia because it seems like it's going to be a big departure from what the previous Prince of Persia games have been. But if I wanted something smaller, say the tiniest news I needed to know about, where would I go?
You go to our last story, the Wii News channel, where we cover all the small news items that you need to know about.
Story number 6. That's right. It's time for Wii News. Pentiment won a Peabody, which means, oh, wow. We're just start and stop. Listen, I've been there. Pentiment won a Peabody. Obsidian tweeted out, we are thrilled to announce that Pentiment has won a Peabody Award. Huge congratulations to the Pentiment team for bringing home the at Peabody Awards win in the immersive and interactive category, which now means that Obsidian needs to watch their backs.
Damn,
the hammer's coming, all right?
Holy
you won an
shit.
award? Oh, God, I'm praying for you. Stray Gods DLC Orpheus launches on June 27th on PC. What's happening, Kevin?
Trying to get the background to come up, and it just refuses to come up. So now
I
I have to try to find it. Sorry, guys.
No, it's all good. There it is. We got a tweet from Bungie. They say, today we're thrilled to announce that the Aleph 1 community is bringing the original 1994 to 1996 Marathon trilogy to Steam, starting with Marathon 1. Thank you to the Marathon community for your support over the years. We couldn't do it without you. So
Very cool.
Yeah, you get to play some Marathon.
A lot of fun, man.
This one is from gamesindustry.biz. Fallout 4 was comfortably the best-selling game of April in the UK, according to the latest GSD data.
Wild, man. So cool.
From Gamatsu, Sega is considering releasing Persona 5 spin-off mobile game Persona 5 The Phantom X in Japan and worldwide, the company said in its latest financial report. And then lastly, The Bear Season 3 releases on June 27th. All episodes will release on the same day. Let's fucking go.
Are they fucking stupid?
Let's fucking
Why
go.
would they do this?
The same day thing?
Yeah, man. It's so dumb. It's so dumb and it's gonna fuck them. It's fucking them already.
What were the last few seasons of The Bear?
Same shit.
Oh, same day.
Yeah.
I don't mind it for The Bear. Bear is the kind of show that I do want to fucking
Yeah, but you know,
just
like
binge.
it would be so much better for the show, for the showrunners, for the people that work on the show, for the networks that are selling the show, for subscription services to be able to actually work and not cause a problem. And one day these shows aren't going to exist. Come on, y'all, figure it the fuck out.
I can't wait for The Bear. I love The Bear.
Me too. It's incredible.
And that's it for Wii News. We got to get out of here in a second, but before we do, I want to pull in a couple of quick hit super chats for you. Josh G writes in and says, hype for Sid, Final Fantasy 16. Ralph Innocent has been cast as Galactus.
Incredible.
I love him.
Cannot wait to hear this.
I can't wait. Like, his voice as Sid is so good. Yeah, that's gonna be good.
I'm just letting everyone know in chat, everyone telling me that I'm wrong about this. I understand people want all the things, but the more that we want everything for less, that means that things aren't going to get made in the future.
Tim's 100% right.
And
The hype-
it's already, look at the conversation we just had for 40 minutes about Game Pass. Careful, y'all.
I mean, how many of us are still talking about Fallout? I feel like Fallout conversation has already like died down in terms of the subscription service thing.
And it could have been going every single week. People would have been hyped as hell.
Yeah.
Game's selling well, though.
I'm still thinking about Fallout. Anakin says, what if they go the EA Play route and put games on Game Pass months after release?
They could.
I imagine right now all options are on the table.
Oh, yeah. And I do feel like the most likely option is that. I do think that they'll just like have to cut their losses in some way and like just be like, hey, we're putting our foot down. This is how this is going to be, because when we launched Game Pass originally, we didn't have fucking games. And now we do have games. And it never felt believable that they were going to be able to offer all these games day one. And I think it's less believable than ever for me that they're going to do that.
Yeah. Optimus Prime writes in and says, I appreciate Tim looking at all this more logically and less emotionally. Not that emotions aren't warranted, but nice trying to make sense of it.
I appreciate that. I don't know what exactly that's in reference to, but
I think they're trying to say I'm emotional.
I don't know.
Which honestly,
I don't know about that.
I mean, I like hearing it because I get the opposite from my friends all the time. They're like, you're such a robot. And I'm like, listen, you know, I don't know. Listen, am I a robot?
We'll have to fucking
We'll have
wait
to
and see.
I'm going to take over the planet, Barrett. And then CJ Splitson writes in and says, I like hearing about these hidden gems. KF should do a sleeper segment, of course, talking about from the past. The title for this game, I can never remember it off the top of my head. I always have to like type it
Yeah.
with my past, from my past, but then also Crow Country. And that's it for the super chats. Now it's time for kindafunny.com/you're wrong, where you write in, let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those watching later on YouTube and listening later on podcast services around the globe. And we have just one from Danger Bunny 17 that says, it's ROG. You just say the letters. It stands for Republic of Gamers.
I just hate that. I just hate it.
So you want me to say ROG ally like a 1,000 times in this article?
No, say
I'm not
Republic
doing
of Gamers.
which is worse.
It's horrible.
I hate Republic of
Fucking
Gamers.
horrible.
I guess technically then it would be ROG, right? Because it's gamers, like is what it stands for. So ROG ally.
Yeah, I mean it's not Raj. It's definitely not Raj. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody actually was pushing it was Raj. We're just talking about our boy.
ROG ally just
Our
it
ally.
rolls off the tongue better.
Mm-hmm.
ROG ally, I don't know, something about it.
Roggly is what I call it.
Roggly. Jesus Christ. All right, that's enough of the show. We're done.
That's enough of the show.
That's enough of the show, all right? That's been KFGD. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy news you need to know about live on YouTube, Twitch, and on podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, support us with the Kinda Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all the shows ad-free, watch Score Them live, and get a daily exclusive show. Enjoy the GAMESCAST after this, which, of course, is Greg's Hellblade 1 review in 2024 with Paris Lily. But until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you Game Daily.
Game Daily, motherfucker.